Delay is not denial. What if the silence you feared was actually approval? Chosen ones, hear this clearly. God has already signed what you've been waiting for. This video reached you because the shift has moved from waiting to confirmation. Have you noticed things getting quiet, people stepping back, your heart calming? That's not loss. That's clearance. Stay with me. This explains everything. When we say God just signed your breakthrough, it doesn't mean everything suddenly appears overnight. A signature means a decision has already been made. The outcome is settled. What remains is process, timing, and delivery. Think of it like an official approval that happens before you ever see the results. Long before a house is built, the plans are approved. Long before a promotion is announced, the decision is finalized behind closed doors. Spiritually, you are in that same phase right now. This is why things may feel strangely calm instead of exciting. You're no longer trying to convince, prove, or beg. The pressure has lifted because the verdict is no longer undecided. You're not waiting to be chosen, you already were. The signature represents divine agreement, alignment, and authorization. What once required effort now requires patience. Many people misunderstand this stage and think nothing is happening because there's no visible movement. But this is often when the most important work is taking place. Logistics are lining up. People are being repositioned. Circumstances are quietly shifting in your favor. You may notice fewer obstacles, fewer emotional reactions, and less urgency than before. That's not stagnation, that's stability. You might also feel a new sense of inner certainty that's hard to explain. Not excitement, not anxiety, just a calm knowing. That feeling is important. It's your confirmation that the struggle phase has ended. You're no longer auditioning for the outcome. You're simply waiting for what's already approved to arrive in the physical world. This phase also explains why pushing harder suddenly feels wrong. When something is unsigned, effort matters. When it's signed, force only creates resistance. That's why rest, clarity, and restraint become more important now than constant action. You're not being tested anymore, you're being trusted. So if you've been wondering why the fight left you, why the urgency faded, or why you no longer feel the need to chase answers, this is why. The signature is already on the page. The breakthrough is no longer a question mark. It's a matter of timing, and timing is already in motion. One of the most confusing parts of a real breakthrough is how silent it feels. Most people expect change to arrive loudly, with signs, announcements, and emotional highs. But when God finalizes something important, it often happens in stillness. Quiet is not absence. Quiet is protection. When a breakthrough is signed, it doesn't need noise to validate it. If everything went silent around you, fewer messages, fewer opinions, fewer distractions, this wasn't accidental. Silence creates space. It removes interference. It keeps doubt, envy, and outside influence from touching what's being secured for you. Some blessings are too important to be exposed too early. That's why they're handled privately. You may have noticed that drama faded without effort. Conversations stopped. Situations that once demanded your attention no longer pull at you. This isn't isolation, it's divine focus. When noise leaves, clarity enters. God often quiets your surroundings before elevating your circumstances so you don't carry old chaos into a new season. This quiet phase also reveals who was connected to you only during struggle. When things stopped being emotionally reactive, some people naturally stepped back. Not because you failed, but because their role was complete. Silence separates what was temporary from what is aligned. Most importantly, quiet strengthens trust. Without constant signs or reassurance, you learn to rest in certainty rather than emotion. That inner calm you're feeling is evidence that you're no longer fighting for direction. You're being guided. So if life feels unusually still, don't rush to fill the space. Don't assume something is wrong. Quiet is often the sound of things being finalized. What's coming doesn't need announcement, it needs alignment. And alignment happens best in silence. It's easy to believe that waiting means you did something wrong. That if things didn't move when you hoped, you must have missed a step or failed a test. But this delay wasn't punishment, it was positioning. Timing in your life wasn't about denial, it was about readiness, alignment, and protection. If the breakthrough had arrived earlier, it would have come with pressure you weren't meant to carry yet. You were still learning discernment, boundaries, and emotional strength. God doesn't release blessings that collapse the person receiving them. The delay allowed you to grow into someone who can sustain what's coming without losing yourself in it. Think about how your perspective has changed over time. What once felt urgent now feels optional. What once mattered deeply now barely registers. That shift didn't happen by accident. It happened because you were being trained to hold success without desperation. A rushed blessing often creates attachment. A delayed one creates stability. There were also elements outside your control that needed adjustment: people, systems, timing, even other lives intersecting with yours. God's plan isn't isolated to one person. Your delay allowed others to move into position so the outcome could arrive clean, not chaotic. Most importantly, the waiting taught you trust without constant reassurance. You learned to keep going without applause. You learned consistency when results were invisible. That kind of strength can't be rushed. So release the idea that time was wasted. Nothing about this process was accidental. The delay refined your character, protected your future, and ensured that when the breakthrough arrives, it won't feel overwhelming. It will feel right. Some of the most important tests don't come with warnings. There was no announcement, no countdown, no clear finish line. Life simply kept moving, and you were expected to show up anyway. That was the test. How you behaved when no one was watching mattered more than how you would have acted if you knew a reward was coming. You were tested in moments of disappointment when effort didn't bring recognition. You were tested when people misunderstood you and you chose restraint over reaction. You were tested when it would have been easy to quit, cut corners, or become bitter. But you didn't. Even on days when you felt tired or unseen, you kept your values intact. That consistency is what passed you through. Many people only do the right thing when they expect an outcome. You did it when there was no guarantee. You stayed patient in uncertainty. You stayed respectful under pressure. You stayed aligned even when frustration made you question whether it was worth it. That quiet integrity didn't go unnoticed. What makes this phase powerful is that you didn't perform, you became. The lessons settled naturally. Your responses changed. Your reactions softened. You matured without forcing growth. That's why the approval came without fanfare. You already proved what needed to be proven. So if you're looking back and realizing how much you endured without breaking, let that be your confirmation. You weren't stuck, you were being observed, and without even realizing it, you passed. One of the clearest signs that a new phase has begun is unexpected distance. Not conflict, not drama, just quiet separation. People who were once present may have slowly stepped back without explanation. This isn't rejection, it's alignment correcting itself. When your direction changes, not everyone can continue walking beside you. Some connections were meant to support a specific version of you, the one who was learning, struggling, or searching. As you shifted internally, the connection naturally loosened. There was no need for arguments or closure because the purpose was already fulfilled. Distance became the cleanest transition. This also protects you. Certain voices had influence over you during earlier stages. If they remained close now, they might pull you toward familiar patterns that no longer fit. Separation creates space for clarity. It removes emotional noise and external expectations so you can move forward without hesitation. You may have noticed that the loss doesn't hurt the way you expected. That's because the attachment already dissolved internally before the physical distance appeared. When growth is real, detachment happens naturally. Instead of questioning why they left, notice who remained and how peaceful that feels. Not everyone is meant to access the next version of you. Some roles expire quietly, And that quiet is often mercy, not loss. Right before a major shift, exhaustion often sets in, not because you're failing, but because your system is resetting. You carried pressure, responsibility, and uncertainty for a long time. Once the outcome was settled, your body and mind finally received permission to release that weight. What feels like tiredness is actually relief surfacing. This kind of exhaustion is different from burnout. It's not despair or frustration. It's a deep need to slow down after holding yourself together for too long. You may feel less driven to push, prove, or overwork. That's not loss of ambition, it's recalibration. Your energy is reorganizing around stability rather than survival. Think of how athletes rest before competition ends, not because they quit, but because the hardest part is already over. The same principle applies here. The struggle phase required constant effort. The breakthrough phase requires presence and clarity. Rest helps you enter it grounded instead of reactive. You might also notice your sleep patterns changing, your appetite shifting, or your desire for solitude increasing. These are signs your nervous system is leaving fight or flight mode. Peace is becoming your baseline. So don't judge yourself for slowing down. Don't force productivity out of fear. This exhaustion isn't a setback, it's a signal. Your system knows the pressure has lifted, and it's preparing you to receive what's already been approved. At some point, something changed inside you and there was no clear reason for it. No dramatic event, no big announcement, just a quiet internal adjustment. The thoughts that once looped endlessly lost their grip. The urgency to figure everything out softened. That wasn't confusion. That was alignment settling in. This inner shift often shows up as emotional neutrality. Things that used to trigger you now pass without reaction. Situations that once demanded answers no longer feel urgent. You may still care, but you're no longer consumed. That's a powerful sign that your identity is no longer tied to outcomes. You're anchored. Another sign is trust without excitement. You're not hyped, anxious, or restless. You simply know, not because you saw proof, but because resistance dissolved. When fear leaves, clarity replaces it. This calm isn't apathy, it's confidence without noise. You might find yourself making decisions faster and doubting yourself less. Not because everything is clear, but because you're no longer second-guessing your worth or direction. That internal alignment makes external movement easier. If you've been wondering why you feel different but can't explain it, this is why. The shift already happened internally. The breakthrough didn't start outside of you, it started within. Some opportunities ended without explanation. Paths you hoped would open simply didn't. At the time, it may have felt confusing or unfair, but those closed doors were not mistakes, they were protection. What didn't work out wasn't aligned with who you were becoming, even if it looked right on the surface. Often, we only see the benefit of a closed door later. You avoided environments that would have drained you, commitments that would have limited you, or relationships that would have required you to shrink. What felt like loss was actually removal. God doesn't block paths to hurt you. He blocks them to redirect you toward what fits. You may now recognize that forcing those doors open would have cost you peace, integrity, or time you can't get back. The version of you today would struggle in the life you once wanted. That awareness is growth. Gratitude doesn't always come immediately. Sometimes it arrives as relief later. Relief that things didn't work out the way you planned, because something better, cleaner, and more aligned was being prepared. Those closed doors didn't slow your breakthrough. They guided it. There was a time when you chased answers, validation, opportunities, and outcomes. You pushed, planned, and tried to control every step. Then, without a clear decision, you stopped. Not because you gave up, but because the need to chase disappeared. That shift didn't come from exhaustion alone. It came from alignment. Chasing is driven by uncertainty. When you don't trust the outcome, you try to force it. When trust settles in, urgency fades. You realize that what's meant for you doesn't require constant pursuit. It arrives through timing, not pressure. Effort turned into awareness. Control turned into cooperation. You may have noticed that opportunities now approach you differently. Conversations feel lighter. Decisions feel cleaner. There's less emotional charge around outcomes. That's because you're no longer operating from lack. You're responding from clarity. Stopping the chase doesn't mean becoming passive. It means choosing alignment over anxiety. You still act, but without desperation. You still move, but without force. That change in energy is what allows receiving to replace striving. If you've wondered why pushing suddenly feels wrong, this is the reason. Chasing belonged to the old phase. The signed phase requires trust, and trust creates movement that effort never could. When people imagine a breakthrough, they often expect a dramatic moment, a sudden announcement, a powerful sign, or an overwhelming emotional surge. But real confirmation usually arrives quietly through ordinary channels. A simple message, a casual conversation, a small opportunity that feels natural instead of forced. That's how alignment shows up. God often uses normal situations to deliver extraordinary shifts. An email you didn't expect, a door opening through someone who wasn't even on your radar, a decision that becomes clear without stress. These moments may seem small, but they carry weight because they fit effortlessly into your life. This is important to understand so you do overlook what's already unfolding. When something is meant for you, it doesn't come with chaos. It comes with ease. You won't have to convince, chase, or explain yourself. The right pieces will connect without pressure. You might be tempted to dismiss these signs because they don't look big enough. Don't. Breakthroughs often announce themselves through simplicity. What matters is how aligned it feels, not how impressive it looks. Pay attention to what flows smoothly now. That's where confirmation lives, not in noise or drama, but in quiet, steady movement forward. For a long time, your focus was simply getting through the day, managing stress, anticipating problems, bracing for disappointment. That constant alertness became normal. But lately, something has changed. You're not as tense. You're not scanning for what might go wrong. That's because you're no longer in survival mode. Survival mode keeps the nervous system on edge. It pushes you to react quickly, overthink decisions, and stay guarded. Alignment allows your system to relax. You start responding instead of reacting. You make choices from clarity instead of fear. That shift is subtle but powerful. You may notice that your body feels different, less tight, less rushed. Your thoughts slow down. You don't feel the same pressure to control outcomes. That's not laziness or complacency. It's safety. Your system recognizes that the immediate threat has passed. When survival ends, receiving begins. Creativity returns. Intuition becomes clearer. You're able to see options instead of obstacles. That's why this phase is so important. A breakthrough can't fully land if you're still bracing for impact. If peace feels unfamiliar but real, trust it. It's not a pause. It's a signal that you've crossed out of survival and into stability. When alignment happens at the core, it doesn't stay contained in one part of life. It creates a ripple effect. That's why breakthroughs often appear to touch several areas at the same time: work, relationships, confidence, clarity, and even daily habits. The change starts internally, and everything connected to you adjusts in response. You didn't just resolve one problem, you shifted your foundation. When your mindset stabilizes, your decisions improve. When your emotional state steadies, your interactions change. When your sense of direction clears, opportunities reorganize around you. One internal correction unlocks many external results. This is why things may feel like they're lining up all at once, even in small ways. Conversations go smoother, choices feel easier, progress shows up without strain. These aren't coincidences, they're consequences of alignment. People often think they need to fix everything separately, but real change works in layers. Address the core and the surface follows. That's what's happening now. You're not juggling multiple breakthroughs. You're experiencing one shift expressing itself everywhere. If several areas of your life feel lighter or clearer at the same time, that's your confirmation. Alignment doesn't compartmentalize, it flows. Some blessings can be handed over easily. Others must be earned, not because God withholds, but because the weight of what's coming requires strength, wisdom, and stability. What you're stepping into now needed preparation. If it had arrived without resistance, it wouldn't stay. You had to become someone who could hold it without losing balance. Earning in this sense doesn't mean striving or suffering endlessly. It means developing character through experience. You learned patience when results were slow. You learned discipline when motivation disappeared. You learned discernment when not every option was right. These lessons weren't optional, they were necessary. When something is earned, it changes how you treat it. You don't take it lightly. You don't waste it. You don't hand it over to the wrong people. You respect it because you know the cost. That respect is what protects the breakthrough from collapsing under pressure. This is also why no one can take what's coming from you. It's not based on luck or timing alone, it's backed by growth. You didn't just receive approval, you became qualified. So if you ever wondered why the road felt harder than expected, this is the answer. What's about to manifest needed more than hope. It needed readiness. And now, that readiness is in place. Something about the way you carry yourself has changed. You speak with less hesitation. You decide with less doubt. You no longer feel the need to explain or justify your choices to everyone. That shift is spiritual authority, earned through experience, not claimed through words. Before, you may have sought reassurance. You checked in with others before trusting yourself. Now, your decisions come from a grounded place. You know when something is right or wrong without needing consensus. That inner certainty wasn't always there. It developed through trial, reflection, and restraint. Spiritual authority also changes how others respond to you. People may listen more closely or challenge you less. Not because you're louder, but because you're steadier. Authority doesn't demand attention, it naturally draws it. This is important because what's coming requires leadership over your own life, not control over others, clarity within yourself. You're no longer waiting to be guided at every step. You're capable of moving forward with confidence and calm. If you've noticed that your presence feels different, trust that. Authority isn't about dominance, it's about alignment, and alignment has already settled into you. Things that once stirred strong emotions no longer hold the same power over you. Memories may still exist, but they don't pull you back emotionally. That change didn't happen because you forced healing or confronted every wound. It happened because you outgrew the version of yourself that was hurt. Triggers lose strength when understanding replaces confusion. You now see situations clearly instead of personally. You recognize patterns without reliving pain. What once felt heavy now feels neutral. That emotional distance isn't numbness, it's resolution. You may notice that forgiveness came quietly, not through conversations or apologies, but through release. You stopped needing explanations. You stopped replaying moments. Closure arrived internally without involvement from the past. This freedom matters because unresolved emotion can distort judgment. It pulls attention backward. Now that those reactions have softened, your focus stays present. You're no longer reacting from old wounds while trying to build something new. If you've been surprised by how calm you feel when old topics resurface, let that reassure you. You didn't suppress the past, you completed it. You may have noticed that you no longer feel compelled to explain yourself the way you once did. Not out of secrecy or pride, but because clarity within you has replaced the need for external validation. When alignment is real, words become unnecessary. Your choices speak for themselves. In earlier phases, you may have overexplained to be understood or accepted. Now, silence feels more appropriate than defense. You trust your direction enough to let results unfold without commentary. This isn't withdrawal, it's confidence rooted in peace. Not everyone needs access to your process. Some will understand later, some never will. Either way, your responsibility is movement, not explanation. This restraint protects your energy and keeps your focus where it belongs, on what's unfolding, not on convincing others. You may not see a dramatic shift yet, but subtle signs are already present. Timing feels smoother. Decisions land easier. Small opportunities appear without effort. These are early indicators that momentum has begun. You might notice synchronicities increasing, conversations aligning with your thoughts, solutions showing up right when needed. There's less resistance and fewer delays. Progress feels steady instead of forced. These signs aren't random. They signal that the process is in motion. What's unfolding doesn't need to rush. It needs to remain aligned. And alignment always shows up quietly first. This phase requires restraint. Don't rush to announce plans before they settle. Don't return to old habits out of impatience. And don't overwork to prove something that's already decided. Avoid filling the quiet with unnecessary noise. Let things develop naturally. Trust timing more than urgency. The breakthrough doesn't need help, it needs space. Protect your energy. Stay consistent, not impulsive. What's signed will arrive in order without force. Now that your breakthrough has been approved, your role isn't to push, it's to align. Alignment means matching your actions, thoughts, and energy with the reality that's already unfolding. Small, steady habits matter more than dramatic efforts. Showing up consistently, maintaining clarity, and staying grounded ensures that the process continues smoothly. Obedience over emotion becomes key. Choices made from calm certainty, not impulse, support the flow of what's signed. Gratitude strengthens this alignment. It's not about hopping for results, but acknowledging that the outcome is already set. When you nurture focus, presence, and patience, you allow your breakthrough to manifest without resistance. Daily awareness, quiet confidence, and mindful decisions create a pathway for the shift to fully arrive. Avoid reacting to minor setbacks or distractions. They're tests to see if your energy remains steady. Each time you stay aligned instead of reacting, the breakthrough consolidates further. Here's the truth you need to hear. This isn't about possibility, it's about certainty. The signature has already been placed. The breakthrough is not coming, it is already in motion. What you're experiencing now is the calm before the full arrival, the quiet assurance that your life is being realigned for your highest outcome. Trust the timing, trust your inner knowing, and most importantly, trust that you are capable of receiving this fully because you have already been prepared. You no longer need to prove, chase, or question. Everything has been set into motion, and all that remains is your presence and patience. Take a moment now and affirm quietly, "It is already approved." Comment it below to anchor this certainty in your life. This is your confirmation. Your moment has been signed, and the results are unfolding exactly as they should. Chosen ones, everything you've been waiting for has already been set into motion. The breakthrough wasn't delayed, it was carefully prepared. Every challenge, every quiet moment, every pause in your life has served a purpose. You didn't just reach this point by chance. You earned it through patience, integrity, and trust. What's coming isn't uncertain anymore. It's confirmed, signed, and ready to flow into your life. Remember, the calm you feel now is your proof. The subtle signs, the ease in decisions, the natural unfolding of opportunities, all of this shows that your path has been realigned for your highest good. Trust yourself and trust the timing. You are ready to receive, and the universe is responding exactly as it should. Keep showing up with clarity and gratitude, knowing that resistance no longer controls your journey. Let your presence, patience, and inner alignment guide every step. Celebrate this moment quietly, but recognize its power. You are entering a season of results, and it is yours to embrace fully. If this message resonates, affirm it in your heart and share it with others who need this reminder. Comment below your affirmation. It is already approved. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to stay connected with more guidance for your journey. Your breakthrough is real, and it's happening now.